Robert Beto O'Rourke's been looking pretty desperate to get in front of the cameras lately, and since his gimmick of jumping on tables or perhaps levitating has gotten old, he's taken a new tack. It's one that leftists around the world have already taken with disastrous results. He says the government should make you sell back the firearms he doesn't want you to own. Hi, fellow rebels. Gardner Goldsmith here for MRC-TV. And yeah, indeed, Beto, Fredo, Frito, Britta, Frodo, whatever name Roberto O'Rourke is using to give him that polyglot hip vibe, he just revealed the gauntleted fist of government aggression that hides behind all that hipness. As BuzzFeed reporter Molly Hensley-Clancy-tweeted- on August 31st, a reporter asked Beto in Charlottesville how he'd assure people afraid the government would take their assault weapons away. Quote, "I want to be really clear that that's exactly what we are going to do," he said. "If you own an AK-47 or AR-15, you'll have to sell them to the government," end quote. And lest anyone think that a BuzzFeed reporter might play loose with the facts, Mr. O'Rourke confirmed the gist of her tweet with his own quotation of her tweet and a very nice reply. Quote, "We need to buy back every single assault weapon," end quote. Which is impossible for two big reasons. First, the guns never belonged to Beto or the government. So a so-called buyback a la New Zealand and what they tried to do with their mandatory voluntary buyback a few weeks ago is a falsehood. It's just dangerous make-believe hidden in a rhetorical cloud of fantasy groupthink. And it would be nice if pop media journalists like Ms. Hensley-Clancy- would mention that fact just once, maybe just once. And second, as has been shown in New Zealand and Australia over a decade ago, where violent crime, including gun crime, increased after the so-called buyback confiscation.
If you're offering up an amnesty for people who have a criminal inclination to come and hand in a firearm, what is their motivation for doing that? If they've acquired a firearm illegally, they clearly intend to use it for criminal purposes. They're hardly likely to just line up at the police station and surrender that firearm.
Beto's vaunted belief that government will buy back every assault weapon is a numerical impossibility historically revealed. And of course, it will never see so-called assault weapons all turned in because statutes aren't magic. Prohibition doesn't kill demand, and it doesn't matter how many Harry Potter wands Beto waves. Obliviate! Criminally minded people care nothing about statutes. If Fredo O'Rourke thinks prohibition stops guns, he can check the results of FDR's insanely unconstitutional 1934 National Firearms Act, which made it illegal for anyone in the U.S. to buy a new fully automatic gun without obtaining a special permit from the government, and of course paying a big fee to Uncle Sam. A 1986 amendment to the act made it illegal to manufacture a fully automatic gun for private purposes, and of course we all know how constitutional that was, which is not at all, and we know how effective it has been to stop fully automatic weapons, which is not at all. And a final lesson, and this one actually might seem a little strange at first, but I think it's pretty important to bring up. In fact, I talk about it in my classes. It's about pronouns and the state. Notice how Beto and most collectivist politicians use the plural pronoun we to include you without your consent.
It is really important that we buy back those weapons of war that are out on our streets right now, millions of them.
Now, it sounds really cozy, of course, but it's really a legacy of royal monarchs and royal decrees. In my classrooms, I devote an entire session to explaining this concept of the royal we. How a monarch used to refer to himself or herself in the plural because he or she supposedly represented the state.
Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly.
Les têtes c'est moi, as they used to say in France. But with the fall of monarchs and the rise of so-called representative states, which of course is an utter impossibility, the we has been adopted by the politicians so that they use it to tell you what you will do. Hence, we hear people say things like, we need to educate kids. We need to care for the elderly. And of course, that's just forced inclusion through pronoun usage. And it actually reflects precisely what government does. It includes you without your real consent. And this is actually such an important thing to remember. I wanted to make sure that I finished the video with this. This pronoun we was so important to people who were clued in about liberty that a dissident Russian novelist named Yevgeny Zamyatin wrote an entire novel called We. It was a dystopian novel about collectivism which presaged 1984 by Orwell and Anthem by Ayn Rand. It's the kind of thing that we have to make sure we watch out for when we hear news reports, not just about the term buyback, which is slippery itself, but the very term we and America and all that inclusiveness, which really isn't inclusiveness, it's grabbing and smothering. So this is the kind of thing that Beto uses all the time. But it's not just Beto. And it's something that we can keep in mind every time we watch a politician talk about what we must do. It's force, and it's hidden in the pronoun. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and visit MRCTV.org. That's MRCTV.org. There is so much going on at the website that is new and fresh every day. We want to make sure we draw it to your attention. Thanks again. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.